Hi, I'm Kamon Reynolds, and we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about making bottom boards like this, talk about the paint job we did here. We'll brush over the lids just for a second, and then we're also going to talk about where you can purchase nukes from us if you would like to. A lot of people ask, and we are opening that up. You can see all the details about our nucleus colonies in the link below. It'll be in the comments and then in the description below if you want to check that out. You know, no pressure, but a lot of people have been asking and waiting patiently, and so that's going to be available. Real quick, let's get to the paint first. So if you watched our video about how to properly paint a beehive, we mentioned this, but we're going to mention it again because it's that important. So what I did is I painted this with high quality paint and primer, and I looked it up, and it's like close to $300 for a 5-gallon bucket. Now I didn't pay that, but still, look at this. They say one coat, and I'm sure on some surfaces it's really good, but check that end grain right there. You can still see pores of the wood. It's different than this over here where it's smooth. That is very well protected right there. In my opinion, this area really doesn't need any more paint, but this end grain, you need to come back and you need to push it down in there again. You can still see gaps in there, and that is again where it's going to soak up water, and that's where it's going to swell. And once your boxes swell, it makes it much harder to protect them down the road. Things just don't fit as good. It's just a big issue. So put some extra paint on those corners. I'm going to come back when we get a nice day. It's not supposed to be nice for a while. I mean, the temperature's pretty good. You can tell by my shirt right here, but it's raining and raining and raining. Oh, we've had so many inches of rain. If we had that turned into snow, we would make Canada look like nothing right now because it would be over the top of our house, I bet you. See, it'd be definitely over my head. It doesn't take that much. All right, and you can definitely paint these bottom and top edges. So important. I was going through some colonies today, and you pop the seal around the boxes, and you can just see water standing on the edges all the way around. And in areas like mine where it's wet during the winter, it's a big issue. And it's not affecting the bees having that water on the edge, but it will affect your equipment and rot it all winter long. So what I have right here is just a solid bottom board. I just threw together out of some scrap wood. You can see it's pretty, it was just some extra wood I had. It had some splits in here and here. It wasn't super strong. Definitely not good enough for other equipment. And I just made this out of a bunch of just different things. Now ideally, let me show you this. You would want the landing board, well, in my opinion, to come off another 1.5 to 2 inches past there. I didn't really have enough wood to do that with it. I mean, I do, but I wanted to use my scrap pieces of wood. So I just made it like this, and I've made some like this, and the bees do very, very good. I mean, bees have been using holes in trees for a long, long time. So they can definitely handle that right there. I think ideally you want to give them that landing board for those dog days of summer where it is stinking hot, and I think it helps them get more bees out there where they can fan currents through the hive and splash water in the hive and force those currents of air around to cool the brood nest. And when you're producing a lot of honey, it is really important they ripen it as quickly as possible because, well, especially if you don't have a lot of comb, I mean, basically they're bringing the stuff in that's just a little thicker than water, and they fill it up and then they condense it down. You fill it up and condense it down, and it takes a lot of room in the hive, and there's a lot of moisture. It's just fascinating how they move that much moisture out of the nectar in the timely manner that they do. It is really insane, and that's part of the reason why we just can't help but keep more and more bees. Laurel at some point is going to cut me off, she says. Hopefully not anytime soon, because I'm just getting started. All right, but this bottom board is just a bunch of little bits of spruce and pine. I'm going to show you how to do the cuts. It's really not that hard if you have a nice table saw, but we've got I'll do a whole nother video just on making these right here. One thing I really recommend you do if you purchase something like this, you got to paint the inside. Before you put these boards together and you staple them and everything, I would paint all the inside pieces. Is it going to be a pain in the hind end? Absolutely. I hate painting. This one's getting dipped. However, if if you only paint the outside of this bottom board, there's going to be moisture getting down in these gaps right here. We made the 3/4 inch cut, or the 3/4 inch by 3/8 of an inch. That one's not perfect, but it'll get the job done. And moisture will get down in there, and it'll cause it to swell, and it'll wear it out over time. Our goal is to protect our investment and protect our bees, and you can't do that with equipment that is allowing moisture to seep through the wood over time. We're rotting and falling apart. And equipment is not cheap. Now, you can build a bottom board like this for a couple bucks if you don't include your time. But if you have some skills and you have a couple tools, then that's really awesome. Now, I've had this question a lot. Should you paint the inside of your bottom boards? And I highly recommend that. Your bottom board takes arguably more abuse than any other piece of equipment in your hive. And the lid and the bottom board really take a lot of abuse. The sun really works hard on the lid, and the sun works on a little bit of the bottom board, but the weight, the rain, the moisture gets down in here. And I really am a firm believer in painting these. There's people that will tell you that that is absolutely something you should never do. And I mean, if that's what they want to do, then that's fine. But there have been beekeepers who have been painting the inside of their bottom boards for well over a century. And we have much healthier, safer paints now than we did back in those days, if you ask me. But I'm a firm believer in painting the inside of this right here and getting it nice and sealed up. It won't hurt your bees. There's a lot of things out there people say will hurt your bees. I'll tell you what will hurt your bees, and that is Varroa mites. And that's the first thing a lot of people will tell you, that you don't need to worry about that much because the bees are going to just naturally be okay all on their own. But then when it comes to painting your bottom boards, well, that's going to kill your bees. Or, oh, you opened a hive when it's sprinkling out there, Kamon. You're going to kill your bees. Why did you do that in your video? You know, it's really hard. I really try not to get on here and harp about things. I really want to be open-minded, but sometimes I really feel like part of the reason we're in the situation that we're in is because we have the professionals and the commercial guys over here, and then we have the hobbyists over here. And the reason I feel like I know a little bit about this is because I was over here in the hobbyist side, brand new. I have tried every full idea out there almost. And there's a few I haven't, thank goodness, but it seems like I've hit every single one of them. And so I'm not saying that, shame on you for ever trying any of this stuff, because I can point the finger definitely can come this way. But I truly believe that the rift between the successful guys and the not successful guys is because these guys over here are telling the professionals and the commercial guys over here, you are the problem. You're doing everything wrong. You're killing the bees. These guys, not all of them are good, but what always hits on social media and the videos, the negative every time. And this really wasn't what this video was about, but it is what it's about now. And some of the commercial guys, I'm sure, do some things that are wrong, but there's people like that in any area of work or life. There are people who do right by their bees and people who don't. And the ones who are quietly in the background, who have been doing it for generations, these people are amazing. And they understand things about bees that we as hobbyists, when we start out, can't fathom because we just don't have the experience. And the commercial and professionals aren't sharing with the hobbyists because the hobbyists have alienated themselves to a large extent. And there's both parties have their faults for sure, but I really feel like we need to learn how to respect each other, even if we don't agree. There's a lot of things that I do that I'm sure people on this channel of ours aren't going to choose to do, and that's great. The only thing that we really want to help people with is to be successful. And if you want to do that in a top bar hive, if you want to throw on a flow hive on every one of your hives, that's awesome. It's fantastic you have enough money to throw those flow hives on there. But I've got one. I'm actually going to use it this year in a video, and I think they're really neat. They don't make a lot of business sense for me, but I think we need more innovative, really cool stuff because I like toys, especially when they involve bees and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to really get on to anybody because I can't. I mean, trust me, some of my professional buddies, they're like, hey, Kamon 10 years ago when you were trying out some of that stuff, yeah, we were laughing at you. And it's just, we all go through different stages of learning. I'm still learning. We're all in different stages of learning. But I'm trying to share with you what I believe is going to help you out the most. Doesn't mean I'm always right. Doesn't mean the way we do is the only way. It definitely isn't. But fundamental beekeeping, kill those mites. Kill them. It'll help so much. And even if you've treated, are you sure that you've done it enough for your area? Are you sure that your treatment worked? Some of them don't do a good job if they're not applied at the right time of the year or applied the correct way or in the right temperature. It's a complicated problem. And sure, if you believe that you can keep your bees without treatments, that's great. But if you lose bees, you need to be monitoring those colonies so that you know if it was actually mites or not. I feel like, and I know this because I've done this many years ago, is you're like, oh, I lost a hive of bees. Well, it must have been too cold. I remember doing that like 16 years ago. Man, we had a cold winter. We don't get cold winters here in Tennessee. Look at this. It's January. we get rain. That's what we get in winter. And I also was thinking, well, okay, this guy sprayed, a quarter mile down the road. That's what took out my bees. Now, I remember the first year I had bees, I'm like, well, I'm going to blame it on the other guy because it can't be my fault. And I promise you it was the Varroa mites, but I didn't know. And I was following bad advice at that time, and I was losing bees all the time. I'm going to be talking about this more in the future. I won't keep going, I promise. But when I stopped playing the blame game, and I started focusing on what I was not doing, and taking care of my bees, and managing them, and monitoring the colonies every month, and realizing what was happening in my area, I started becoming an actual beekeeper instead of a beehaver. Bees aren't like anything else in life. It takes work. It takes study. Our videos are really put together, hopefully, to help you go from beginning to a veteran. Whether that's keeping 3 hives in your backyard or taking it to a sideline or more. We don't have all the information. But I promise you, those Varroa mites, taking care of your queens and giving them good nutrition. If you do those 3 things, you won't always just have everything perfectly work out for you, but you will be making honey every year and you will be having success. We've got to get our bees in the condition as close as we can prior to Varroa mites. Some people believe that they will evolve. I have not seen any evidence to that. I have tried so many things in regards to what the treatment-free folks recommend, and I want that. And people watch my videos, and some of them don't understand that guys like me, we want that more than anybody. You realize how much time I spend, how much sleep I've lost, how much money I've lost because of Varroa mites? I'm not going to tell you because I don't know if I can handle it, and you might not be able to either. And if Laurel knew, well, I'd definitely be cut off today. So anyways, if you want to do that, though, what? You looked at me funny. You're going to cut me off? No. If you guys want to do that, I just suggest that you monitor. Buy these Mite Mauler bees. Try them out. Try out the special Russian breed. Try out treatment-free bees from treatment-free guys who are fairly famous and see if they work for you. Monitor those colonies. Check those Varroa levels. I think when we take out those Varroa mites and we keep them low, we are giving our bees the ideal condition of the way they were prior to them. Do I think the bees are going to die out completely because of Varroa? No. I think they've actually reached a fairly balanced equilibrium. Bees will never thrive like they did before Varroa. I firmly believe that. The mites are a big issue. I mean, they're consuming on the adults, they're stealing their nutrition, they're feeding on the next generation, they're injecting viruses and bacteria, all kinds of problems. The bees in the wild have an ability. They're able to swarm, leave mites behind and oftentimes swarm a couple times at least. And all it takes is for one of those to be able to survive and make it to the next year for that to work. And I believe that's the balance that we're at. Bees will never be at the point where they're just all over the place again. I don't think they ever will. Unless the bees just wake up one day and start just going all Bruce Lee on the Varroa mite, which they don't genetically need to. All they need to do is reproduce, and technically, they're not even native to this country. There's so many variables out there. As a new beekeeper, focus on just keeping your bees alive. Monitor them. Do these things. Focus on learning the basics and the fundamentals. And my recommendation is once you get there where every year you're having success, you're enjoying it, and you're making your own splits and things, then tackle something as crazy as treatment-free. It's a lot of work. Anyone that says that it's not, I think it's pretty disrespectful to the situation that the world is in. There are people across the world who have been studying on this since before I was alive. And it's a tough topic. A lot of people don't like it when I talk about this stuff, but someone's got to, and I really feel like that's the number one problem. There's not even a close second. Not even close. I really feel like if you added small hive beetle, tracheal mites, European foul brood, and several of the other little things, wax moths, and you added them all together, they still would not be a close second to Varroa. That's how bad they really are. Monitor your colonies, and we're going to be showing you a lot more of that this year. If you have any comments or questions on this video, leave them below.